On behalf of the U.S. P&L Trade Association Board of Directors, I am proud to introduce Mr. Joe Hulett, a recipient of the 2013 Honorary Life Member Award. It was my great honor to speak with Joe in the Kreitz Seed Boardroom in Moscow, Idaho this summer. Joe spoke fondly of his time in the industry and about some of the people that were instrumental in his career.
And, you know, I've been raised in the pea processing industry. My dad started to work for Wallace Grain and Pea Company in Palouse in 1932, right after the company was founded, and he continued working until 1979, so he was there for like 47 years. And I guess it always seemed like an interesting way to make a living. I graduated from high school in 1959 and then went on to college. I taught for 5 years in Texas at Texas A&M. And then I took a job with Conoco in their coordinating and planning department in Connecticut. The Palouse kept tugging at me. And well, I started with Wallace Grain and Pea Company in 1979, and I worked there for 22 years. And so then I had an opportunity to go to work for COAG in Roselia as their controller, which was fun. And then Tom Druffel at Kreitz offered me basically the same position with Kreitz as I had with COAG, and the difference of being less than a mile away from home as opposed to 50 miles away from home was a clincher. And so that wasn't a hard decision. And so I went to work there and worked there for 7.5 years. I was at COAG for 2.5 years. Kreitz has an amazing board. And one of the real pleasures and rewards of working at Kreitz was to get to work with the people that sat around that table. My mentors, I think, were my dad, which, I mean, that was a lifetime process. I mean, I literally grew up having a pretty close connection to the business. Another gentleman that whose name you may never have heard was named Dutch Proctor. Dutch was the operations person at Wallace Grain and Pea Company. He quite literally built the plant and then ran it his whole working life. And he's one of the most intelligent people I've ever known. The individual who basically owned Wallace, or whose family owned Wallace, was Wayne Van Vliet. Well, he was my boss all the years that I was at Wallace, and he was a wonderful person to work for too, and knew a great deal about both the pea industry and the bean industry. I don't know whether I would call them mentors or not, but other people that were certainly role models were some of the giants of the industry when I started, and that would include Pat Johnstone, Spokane Seed, and of course Pete, his son, is now the manager. Lee Schultz was the manager of Inland Empire Pea Growers Association. Harry Grazier was the manager of Moscow, Idaho Seed. Jerry Jordan ran the Dumas Seed Company, and Hal Roffler was the manager of Northwest Pea and Bean. All these guys had just tons of experience in the peanut industry. And I remember going to meetings early out at the State Line office, and I'd sit there and just think, my gosh, how am I ever going to learn enough to compete with these guys, or even to talk with them, you know? Pat, Lee, and Harry were all fighter pilots in the Second World War. And when you got that group together, and I say this lovingly, it was hard to find a room in Moscow that was big enough to accommodate all their egos. So that, you know, that's a few people. It omits many wonderful, capable folks that I knew and worked with over the years. It's always been fun for me to be part of a team, especially when the whole team is committed to an objective, you know. So it's really been a privilege to work with all these fine folks. They're all just great people, and I really enjoyed working with them, and I miss them because I don't see them much anymore. I would say try to cultivate as many good relationships as you can. It helps, and it's rewarding. And finally, I think that I would encourage people to participate just as much as they feel they can in the industry organizations and the activities that you're involved with. It broadens your perspective. It gives you a way to connect with people. It puts you in a room with farmers and helps you to understand what their concerns are, what's going on in other parts of the country and other production regions. So anyway, I think it's really, really valuable.
Join us in honoring Joe Hulett, a new honorary life member of the U.S. Pea and Lentil Trade Association.